Hi, this is Jennie Walker and welcome to Closet Conversations. Today I want to talk to you about how to edit yourself when you're outsourcing. I was at the Goodwill store today and ran into a friend of mine who also resells. And he is someone that I met when we sort of bonded over some Jeremy Scott um, teddy bear sneakers that he found one day, and he was asking me about them and kind of showing them off, and I'm like, oh my gosh, those are awesome. I know exactly what those are. Those are Jeremy Scott. What a great find. And so he's someone that from time to time when we're in the store at the same time, we will say hello to each other and talk about finds that we've had or good buys or good flips. And I was in there today and he was in there and we got to talking, and he was telling me about how he had found this Louis Vuitton bandeau top, and how another guy had found the matching skirt like the day before, and he had found the top like the next day. And so he got on his phone on his eBay store and showed me the top, and he was really excited that he'd sold it for $245, and it had ginormous, I'm talking about maybe 6-inch logos on it. It was huge, the logos on it. And I took one look at it and I said, oh, that's so great, great score. I said, but you really underpriced it. He goes, I thought I might have. And so we started talking about pricing and the kinds of things that he looks for. And I was telling him, the bigger the logo, the higher the price for anything with the like Dior logos or Louis Vuitton or Fendi or all that, or Chanel. And then he was showing me some Chanel sweaters he had bought, and he says, what do you think of these? And I said, well, I think they're fake. And so we went through the different things, and so he showed me the Chanel sweaters. He showed me some trading cards that he had flipped for like $600, some very specific card that he said he bought for $3. And then he showed me this Coda Bosta glassware, and I know that brand. I first bought my first piece. I have some of my own in the 80s, and it's really fine glassware. And he said he had bought that for a couple of dollars and sold it right away online for about $400. And so we got to talking, and then this other thing he showed me was this Dolce & Gabbana striped knit sweater that had this open weave, almost like a bell sleeve with fringe sleeves on it, and then like woven in the back. I almost passed out when I saw it. And then he showed me this Jean Paul Gaultier mesh red jacket with like black trim on it. And I was telling him, I said, look, your prices are too low. And we started talking about it, and after he showed me the Gaultier jacket, the Dolce & Gabbana top, the Louis Vuitton bandeau top, the Costa Boda glassware, and the trading cards, I looked at him and I said, I think I'm going to put everything back in my cart. And it just reminded me that, about when I'm outsourcing, how there are people like this gentleman who are so specific and so controlled. They control themselves so well when they're outsourcing that they literally bypass everything else and point out and look for and identify the good stuff. And yeah, I would much rather not have anything in my cart and have one Dolce & Gabbana top or one Gaultier jacket. And so we kind of got to talking about it, and I was just kind of joking. I joked at least 3 or 4 times. I said, I'm just ready to put everything back. I said, now that I've seen your stuff. And so it was kind of a reminder in what I wanted to talk to you about, that how easy it is just to load your cart up with a whole bunch of, I'll just call it, I don't want to say a whole bunch of mess or a whole bunch of nonsense, but I will say a whole bunch of stuff that is, average. And I guess the question is, can you be better at editing yourself when you're inside a store like a Goodwill or some other thing, some other store? Can you edit yourself better? Do you have the ability to control what you buy? Do you even want to source that way? And I actually do, and which is why I wanted to talk about it, because I admire the fact that he didn't pick up anything except these really good things. Think about it. Jeremy Scott teddy bear sneakers, Costa Boda glassware, highly sought after trading cards, Gaultier jacket, Dolce & Gabbana Dolce & Gabbana sweater. He showed me these 2 Chanel sweaters he had picked up, even though I deemed that they were fake, and they were clearly fake. They were made like in, they didn't say like made in Turkey, but like everything was wrong about the tag. And I think it said like made in, I don't know, not Poland, but just, some odd place. It wasn't made in France. And so anyway, so we got to talking, and I was thinking, this guy is really, really good at spotting and identifying and picking out just the really good stuff. And so he goes every single day. Sometimes he says he goes twice a day. And so he's going very frequently, but when he goes, he's very controlled about what he buys, and he's only getting the good, I'll call it the good stuff, the higher end flips, the really expensive and luxury brands. And that is something that any of them, because I've got a store. So where I would normally just go into a bunch of consignment shops like in New York and source, is I don't have that opportunity here in Pasadena. And so I'm very limited to shopping online or going to the local thrift shops. And so I'm limited. And because I'm limited, I don't feel like I can only walk out of there with a few good pieces when I have been doing so well selling these other pieces on Poshmark. Now, albeit I have to sell a whole lot more inventory to move what would equal just one amazing sweater from Dolce & Gabbana. And so, that is something that I really wanted to talk through with you and kind of talk about, because it's a sourcing strategy. And I've seen a lot of YouTube videos, and I hear a lot of people talk about the brands, but 99.9% of the people showing hauls and things like that are not focused on luxury and are not only picking luxury items. Matter of fact, they're picking mid to low end brands. And then if they find luxury, it's what you call the happy accident. It's the outlier. It's that unicorn that comes their way, rather than specifically focusing on finding those luxury items. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's because they are familiar with the luxury brands, or if they don't feel like they have enough of them in their town. I'm sure there's definitely regional differences in the inventory quality around the country. I've experienced it myself, and I found it abysmal in Texas, and I found it really good in LA, and I found it just moderate to almost non-existent in Phoenix, Arizona. So I know there are regional differences, and there's, you have to hit it just right, but there are trends in being able to find good things at all in certain cities. So, I took my cart from the Goodwill, and I went over. I was joking with my friend. I said, I got to go put everything back. I'll just see you later. And so I went over into a corner, and I started going through everything, and I put so much stuff back. It was amazing. And in the end, I had whittled it down to a very small number of items. And even in the total end, I had found this beautiful cashmere Kenzo sweater. But when I noticed, it had some pilling on it, no big deal. I could get that off. But when I saw it was missing, like the belt, so it was like this floral cashmere sweater, and it had 2 little belt loops on each side where once was the cashmere belt, because it was a kind of a longer line cashmere sweater where obviously was worn outside, like on top of pants and not tucked in. And I thought, you know what? It's missing the belt. I'm not going to cut these belt loops off. I'm just going to put it back. And so the one super designer thing I had found, I didn't even end up getting. And at the end, I sat and I looked at everything in my cart, and I'm just like, none of this is designer. But I think it's sellable in the sense that it's sellable in terms of the things that I'm selling well on Poshmark. I found a Juicy Couture tuxedo jacket with sequins on it that was really smart. I had found a vintage 1950s, I don't know if it's 50s or 40s dress, black dress, with a white collar and cuffs on the sleeves. It was really, really beautifully done. What else did I find? Let's see. I found a Madewell black silk V-neck bell sleeve blouse. It had some top stitching in uh, white and red on a black blouse, and then a big ribbon in the back that was really, really quite wonderful. I found some things for me. Now, this was interesting. Just before I had left to go to the Goodwill, I had mentioned in other podcasts I'm trying to clean out my own closet, and I found this pair of black leggings that were I bought them used to begin with. I had bought them at probably the Goodwill, and I had worn them to wear. Like the fibers are like the fibers are sticking out of the clothes, like pilled. Like this was, I mean, this is the worst thing you've ever seen. And I looked at those pants today, and I said, "Oh my gosh, I just cannot put these on my body one more time." So I thanked them, Maria Kondo style, put them in the trash. And so fortunately today I was able to find some by the brand Hue. I found these leggings, like leggings / pants that they had in white and in black for $6.99 a piece. Both were brand new with tags from Nordstrom. Normally I think $45. And so I felt really good about buying 2 pair of pants for myself that were new with tags for $6.99 a piece. That made me feel really good. So I found those. I found this amazing green wool sweater with this black lace around the collar and cuffs. It was vintage, but because there's no label there at all, there's no idea of knowing how old it is, but it was just the colors were really good. And I found this really cool vintage blazer by Tom and Linda Platt, probably from the 80s. They were popular in the 80s. They're still around today if you look them up, but it was super cool vintage blazer. And I don't know, I think another pair of pants for myself by a brand called Hot Kiss. They were awesome. Like black, red, and white plaid pants I can wear to work. So basically I bought things for myself and then just a few to sell. But I really just sat there and was thinking, I could put all this back and just walk out the door because I really didn't find anything extraordinary today. I found some things that were very nice, and I liked that I found pants for myself because doing this kind of work just ruins me for shopping, trying to wrap my head around regular shopping, but I didn't need any of it. But this is the whole point. The whole point is, how do you edit yourself while you're in the moment? Because there's this weird pull, this weird thing that comes over me when I'm in an environment like that. I go in wanting to find something. I go in wanting to buy, not wanting to buy. And I talked to previously in another podcast about when I go to the bins the next time about how am I going to not buy stuff, right? And so you almost need a spotter with you, someone to talk you down. But I could have left everything, and I really, really got me thinking. Yeah, I would much rather buy one Dolce & Gabbana sweater and buy one Gautier jacket than all of the stuff that I had. And so I think it's important to realize that the only one who can do that is me. If I were in another environment like a consignment shop, I could come across designer clothes all the time. Because, you can flip something and make money on it. It doesn't have to be something you found for $10 at the Goodwill. I mean, with something like Gautier, you can spend $100 on something you can flip for hundreds, but you have to be able to be around it. You have to be able to source it. And again, I just don't have the luxury of stores I can just walk into and go through the racks and find those underpriced things. So to find this kind of luxury piece in Pasadena has to be a happy accident, a very focused kind of sourcing. And I'm asking myself, is that something I want to do? Do I want to shift into that? And the answer is, yeah, absolutely. I definitely want to move away from what I've been doing, even though what I'm doing is working very well. I want to elevate everything I'm doing, and I've got to find ways of thinking about it a lot stronger, because if you add up the amount of money in these pieces, $600 trading cards, I think it was $400 piece of Costa Boda glassware. He sold the Louis Vuitton top for $245. He's asking, I think, $400 for the Gautier jacket and asking like $500 for the sweater. And so, sure, and I don't know how much he's asking for the tennis shoes, but this is a very different way to work. It's a very different way to go about sourcing and reselling. I do not know if this person works full time or not in this. My sense is he does it for fun, that it's part time, that it's just extra income on the side, and it's just a thrill when it happens. So, perhaps someone with that sort of mindset can easily just cherry pick the very best of what's in there. He went on to tell me about a Versace medallion he bought at an estate sale and sold online for $500. So he's very controlled, very specific, and is making a lot of money on a few things. It's one strategy. And it was nice to be reminded of it. It was nice to see that in action and to see someone who was so specific and so controlled about what they were buying, because I can tend to get lost in a store like that because, it's the prices are right, and it's less about what it costs for the actual item versus the biggest challenge is finding something worth selling. It's that treasure hunt. With this reminder in mind, I know for myself, I'm going to be rethinking about what it would take for me to source that specifically. And I think what it would take is going more often in order to buy, such a small amount of things, and being very specific about it and just making that decision to just walk on by. I know today I put back a lot of things I would normally have bought. I put back a bunch of H&M dresses that I thought were just really special. I put back some Mac Studio Nude tags. I put back a Topshop, orange dress that didn't think it was special enough. I put back a vintage sweater because I really don't want to do vintage that isn't branded. And this was just your basic, I wouldn't say basic, it looked kind of special, but it was going to have to be dry clean. But who's going to buy this thing? Like, some vintage, like we sold today a vintage Versace dress at the at Walker Viden Luxury Consignment that we had online at La Prix on that website. It sold full price, like $800. And, that's the kind of vintage I want to be dealing in ultimately, is the $800 vintage gowns, not the $20 H&M blazers. And the only way to transition out of that is to just quit buying it. So today was very much a reminder, with having made that sale online in our own store and then watching this gentleman show me these beautiful pieces on his iPhone in his eBay store, was just a reminder that you can just walk on by this other stuff. You can start the process of upgrading everything that you're doing in terms of brands. Now, I actually have the brand knowledge. I've spent a lifetime as a luxury consumer. So I have the brand knowledge to know what brands to be looking for, but what I don't have is a good history of the control that it takes to hone in on just that. There's a guy on Instagram. I've got to find his handle for you. Okay, I just had paused this podcast for 30 minutes to find this guy. Check out on Instagram. It's Vintage LJ 1990s. So VINTAGE LJ1990S. This guy was referred to me by another vintage store in town that handles sneakers and streetwear. And this gentleman is so controlled. He is a model flipper. He only buys Louis Vuitton, Gucci, and Versace, those are his main three. And not only does he just buy those three, he finds fixtures. Like, imagine that a Gucci store were to like remodel, and then they had to throw out all of the metal work, for example, from their store. He's the kind of guy who gets fixtures as well, like Gucci fixtures. He once had some metal work he was chopping up into benches or something. But this guy is amazing. Check him out, Vintage LJ 1990s. And that will give you an idea of someone who is ultra controlled, who's very honed in on 3 or 4 brands. I've talked to him, and he basically goes everywhere. He looks everywhere you can possibly imagine to find this very specific items. And he has developed a customer base who's ready and waiting to buy from him at any time. And so it's quite extraordinary to check out his Instagram feed, and you can learn a lot about someone who is ultra focused on just 3 or 4 luxury brands, and it's really quite something to behold. All that said, stream of consciousness here. I just thought that we should think about and ask ourselves these pressing questions, which are, can we be more controlled? Can we be more focused? Is it possible for a particular business model, for yours or for mine, is to hone in on just a few brands, or to find a way to filter out some of these things that are just mediocre, and work that way where you get more bang for your buck when you do sell something. And that's it. That's what I wanted to talk to you today, and pose those questions. If you have any topics for me, please be in touch with me on Instagram. You can also email me at JennieGirlsCloset@gmail.com. I am looking for topics rather than constantly trying to come up with my own. I am interviewing some wonderful people this month. I'm not going to tell you who they are. Some wonderful interviews I have coming up. And I'm very, very soon, so soon it just might be tomorrow, I have some really special guests I'm going to be interviewing who are very important in the resale field. So I hope you'll stay with me for that. If you haven't subscribed, please do. If you like what you've heard today and got any value out of it, please give a 5-star review, some thumbs up, some comments, share links with people you know enjoy reseller content. And if you want to join my JennieGirl email list that I have started, you can do that by going to JennieGirlsCloset.com. There's a pop-up email window just as you enter that website. You can contact me on Instagram, or again email me at JennieGirlsCloset@gmail.com. If you like the song you heard in the intro, it's recorded by Jennie Walker and written by Jennie Walker and Tommy Farragher. The song is called Black Hat. It's available on iTunes worldwide now.